right, so I just got back from Dallas, went up there for Thanksgiving and spent Thursday through Sunday and got through a weekend with the family. And I just got reminded by all the simple kind of big health mistakes that a lot of people probably wouldn't want to make, but just don't realize that they're actually that important and major that they continually make. On one end of the spectrum, they probably feel like they're not that big of a deal, but to me, these are major. So we're gonna jump into this video and we're gonna talk about the major mistakes that they've been making and what I think are actually simple things that would transform their health if they just did these few things. And they watch my channel, so I love them. I know they're changing and that they wanna improve on these things, but we gotta get into the meat of this. So let's talk about these common mistakes, and hopefully you can coach your family and share some of the insights and data and help them to transform as well, because I think these mistakes are pretty major, but they're really not necessary, if you will. With a little bit of discipline and a little bit of budget and proactive planning, most people can adjust for these and not have to deal with them. So let's get right into them. So number one is tap water. I always see the majority of people just don't prioritize their water. And it's crazy to think about this because your water is one of your biggest things that you have. And if you don't have your water, what exactly are you, like that's the number one ingredient nutrient that your body needs. And yet I see people constantly drinking tap water out of the fridge filter. And the fridge filter is not professional grade. And with just a little bit of budget, you can make a lot of changes here. So I'm gonna cut to an article, and I did a little research, and I've done quite a few things here with the research, but I wanna jump through and just talk about some of the points and reasoning why it's really important to think about tap water and what you should be, why you should not be drinking this and probably not be showering in it either. So you've got arsenic as one of the biggest things that can be in tap water, chlorine, fluoride. In fact, in Texas, fluoride is added, and they say it's added at safe levels, but you don't need that to be going through your kidneys, through your system. And, it's a preferential thing that municipalities have used largely to strengthen teeth and in certain things within the human body, but they're also quite toxic and it's a chemical. So why would you want to drink that? People don't realize there's a lot of heavy metals. If they actually realize just what crap is going into these items, it might be pretty freaking real for most people to actually invest in their water. And I'm going to tell you a resource that I use that I would recommend. They're not the best by any means. I'm not trying to bag on them, but water.com, you can go there. You can see if you can find delivery. I get glass carboys, a huge bunch of them delivered every month. It's about $130 a month of water for me. And for me, that's an investment in my health. I think it's well worth it. It gives you spring water in glass with the minerals, but you got to avoid these things like nitrates, the bacteria, obviously the all this stuff. And there's a low grade carbon filter that can help with this, but it's only going to do so much. Like that refrigerator filter is not designed, and for a minimal investment, even something like a $400 Berkey is going to be a lot better than taking the water out of that. And when you think about the fact that water is the main thing in your body, it's just crazy to think about. The majority of people do not invest in a high quality water, in my experience. And my family, I wish they would invest in. I've recommended it. My brother has been to my house and wanted to get the water and then just hadn't got around to it months later. So anyways, another article that I found that I thought was really interesting about water is on Mercola. I'm also a big fan of his articles. They can be a little bit intense, but a lot of like the disinfectant byproduct things that you get, like sanitary products, the chemicals, you got to realize that the water is getting treated. It's getting cleaned and reprocessed. And yes, that means that they do a pretty darn good job of like flushing through our water supply. But at the same time, if you live in a place where water is recycled, all this waste, some of that stuff is going to bleed through on the process. Now, again, I'm not a chemist. I'm not claiming to have looked at all the detailed data, but why would you take the risk on water when it's really not that big of a deal to just invest in a $300 or $400 high quality Berkey filter and adding minerals after the fact, or get on a high quality water service that for the most people is going to be one of the most important investments they make in their health And all these things that are in your water supply from the ground, from agriculture, from industrial, from waste runoff, from the processing, can affect you greatly. And so, as simple as it sounds, getting a high quality water source is probably one of the biggest things you can do to transform your health and your family's health. So help them understand this, preach to them, get them to do it, be noisy about it. I know they probably don't care that much about it, but in my opinion, it's one of the most important things you can do. Number 2 is seed oils, and they are prevalent everywhere. And if you're in the carnivore community, this is no surprise how damaging they are to human bodies. And just the sort of data that's coming out that's really showing just how much you do not want to steer near these things. And it's pretty freaking nasty. And the problem is they're everywhere, right? So you've got, even if you just wanted to get organic corn chips, a lot of those are cooked in sunflower oil. It's just like you can't even get chips and dip without getting the seed oils, even if you're buying organic chips. Most people are not looking at the ingredients list when they buy these products, and they're finding them it's just wild. So in terms of the industrial situation and what we have, highly recommend, if you want to get really detailed in the weeds here, you go check out Chris Kresser's article. But how industrial seed oils are making us sick, the long and the short of it is these things are not ancestrally consistent at all. The way that they're processed is extremely genetically modified and unique in terms of just mass production. So humans are not accustomed or acclimated biologically or evolutionarily to this type of fatty acid profile. And when you look at them, they're mass producing them through monocrop agriculture. And then the actual seed oils themselves are oxidized. They've got issues with the quality of the product. It's wild. And what really ultimately happens is you're looking at correlations of higher levels of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular health, just the degeneration that comes from eating oxidized, rancid, and out of balance omega-3 fatty acids. They're terrible for your health. And this article goes on to talk about the omega-6, omega-3 ratio, how unstable the fatty acids are within these oils. They're full of additives. They're genetically modified, that you just don't want them. And the problem is when you're eating blindly and you're actually going through your Thanksgiving and you're spending it with your family, snacking on all these great things, even if you do that at a sort of minute amount and you're careful not to like go too crazy, you're getting these fatty acids in your body that are not healthy. And you got to imagine all the leftovers, the sheer volume of food that people are eating with this stuff. I do think they are something to be very careful and mindful of in your diet. And you've got to watch out for them because they are in everything. So if you're not able to join in the family meals because they're using ingredients that are unknown or are going to be high in seed oils, that's okay. You should educate them. You should share what you know about them and be mindful of the fact that, hey, this is not good. I would not want you to be eating this. It's not good for your body. The data is pretty strong out there that these are just, you're much better off eating these wholesome fats and avoiding foods that have anything to do with this crap. The third point I want to mention is EMF. And I know some people are gonna be like, whatever, EMF, the sun is a giant nuclear reaction. You're getting tons of EMF from that. Like, why is this? EMF is just BS, right? It's not that real. It's not good for you. But the thing is, we don't get the same, like when the sun goes down at night, we aren't supposed to be getting blasted with all these wireless frequencies and cell 5G and EMF and 5 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi routers. But my brother's house, the guest room where I slept, has a router in the closet. It's also within about 10 feet of his bedroom. And then he's got repeaters on all levels. So he's blasting that signal in each of the rooms that he's in. And my mom's room in her house, it's kind of the same thing. She has the router in her master bedroom. And this one's tougher to convince family of. But what I try to do is tell them, hey, look, wired is not that difficult to implement. And the actual intensity of your exposure of EMF is much more stronger when you look at where you are in the strength curve, right? So if you're putting your routers right next to you, like, why do you need to have super intense Wi-Fi like in your bedroom? Like, do you really need that? Most people don't need that. And for the devices that you're using, like this laptop I'm talking to you on, you can wire these devices in relatively simply with a simple switch and some Ethernet cables. And now the cables are really small. You can run them very easily along molding, and you get a much faster connection. The internet's better. You're not as physically close to your device emitting the EMF, and you're lowering that, and you're lowering your exposure. So it's just another one of those things. I tend to look at EMF kind of like smoke, like wherever the source of the routers or the radiation or the electromagnetic frequencies are, that is a smoke source. And I don't want to be inhaling that and being physically close to that if I don't have to. So I sleep in a canopy that's shielded. And if you get a tri-tune meter, you can actually check a lot of the levels in your house and do a whole thing. Maybe if you want, people ask in the comments or mention in the comments, I can do an analysis and show you what my canopy looks like, how the levels change in and out of my sauna space, sauna, Faraday cage, and then in my canopy versus my home, even with my Wi-Fi router shut off, living in an apartment downtown Austin. So EMF is real. It's out there. The data is still so young. We don't know what the long-term effects are. But again, these frequencies are going through your cells. They're hitting and vibrating your DNA. I think there's evidence, even the non-ionizing that they call safe. These businesses that are selling these products that are using this technology, they benefit massively from the profits and the convenience. And there's something to be said about the convenience of having a good Wi-Fi. I even use Wi-Fi from time to time in my house. But you have to balance that with the long-term health implications that you have in your home. And so it's just one of those things where don't put it next to your bed where you sleep. Like, you're not going to experience that same level of EMF naturally at night. And you need that time for your body to recover and not to be blasted by a signal of Wi-Fi. So those are kind of my three big, like, whoa, let's get these under control. The seed oils is tricky, but again, let's just summarize for the end of the video here. One, again, water. Just think about all the products, the chemicals, the microplastics, the potential pesticides, the fluoride, the chlorine that goes into tap water that you're then relying on a manufactured basic filter to take all of that crap out of your water. It's not enough. I think it's well worth investing. If you did nothing else and your family could change one thing, the water supply would be a huge, huge one. Number two, as we mentioned, was seed oils. And those are prevalent in so many different things in your diet and in processed food. When you're eating at these gatherings, a lot of the different foods, if they're especially coming out of a bag that's been processed, like chips, 99 times out of 100, it's going to have some seed oil. And again, when you look at the data from Chris Kresser and some of these other researchers that have dug into it, there's nothing ancestrally consistent about seed oils. They're all highly processed. They're highly inflammatory. They're linked to, they're correlating a lot, and they're linking a lot to some of these higher incidences of disease. It's not good. And fatty acids stay in your body for periods of time. So you don't want to be consuming them, and you want to get rid of them because they last and they store into your fat cells in your body. So they affect you not just temporarily, but for the long term. And then lastly is the EMF. Just getting away from the source, trying to kind of close out and streamline what you have there so that you're not physically just sitting on top of your Wi-Fi router or sleeping next to it, God forbid, and you have and are giving your body a chance to have a break there. So there you have it. There's kind of the three big ones that I thought were kind of like, oh man, these are big mistakes. I wish people were more mindful of them. I will share this with my family. I hope that you will learn something from this. And if you like the video, hit the like button, comment. It helps the channel grow and the content spread, and share it if you can, and drop a comment and let me know your thoughts. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.